as the world is paying close attention to what's going on in Russia, especially during the current summit in Kazan, which has about 30 heads of state attending. An important development is that Iran and Saudi Arabia are planning to hold a joint naval drill in the Red Sea. It may sound like fake news or propaganda, but this is exactly what the Iranian Navy said today. Before getting into the details of this naval exercise, it's important to look at the history of the relationship between these two countries, how their relations have recently improved thanks to China's role as a mediator, and what we already know about this unprecedented military cooperation. We will also look at the naval capabilities of both Iran and Saudi Arabia and how this cooperation might affect the Middle East's political landscape, especially since tensions between Israel and Iran are high. Iran. From the 1920s to 1979, diplomatic links between Iran and Saudi Arabia were formed when a friendship treaty was signed in 1929. In the early years, tensions were low because both countries were focused on keeping their own governments stable. In the 1940s, religious and cultural differences led to a lull in regional peace. This was especially true after the controversial execution of an Iranian pilgrim in Saudi Arabia. However, in the 1960s, under King Faisal of Saudi Arabia and Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi of Iran, the two countries found common ground. They worked together to promote Islamic solidarity and started groups like the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. From 1979 to 2000, they had a period of relative cooperation after the revolution. The 1979 Iranian Revolution completely changed the relationship between the two countries. Iran, which was then an Islamic republic led by Ayatollah Khomeini, wanted a Shia-led theocratic government and was against the Saudi kingdom, which stood for Sunni conservatism. After the revolution, there was ideological tension between the two countries. Iran saw the Saudi monarchy as unlam, while Saudi Arabia was afraid of Iranian expansionism. This rivalry got worse in the 1980s, when both countries backed opposing sides in the Iran-Iraq War and fought over who should be in charge of the Islamic world. There was a brief thaw in the 1990s after the 1987 Hajj incident, in which hundreds of Iranian pilgrims were killed in a fight with Saudi police. Diplomatic relations broke down, but were restored in 1991. In the 1990s, relations got better, especially during the reformist rule of Iranian President Mohammad Khomeini, from 1997 to 2005. During that time, diplomatic trips and trade partnerships were used to try to improve relations. Things got worse again after the US invaded Iraq in 2003 and put the country's Shia majority in charge. Iran's growing power in Iraq and the wider region scared Saudi Arabia. During the Arab Spring in 2011, the rivalry got even worse. Iran and Saudi Arabia backed different groups in battles all over the Middle East, such as in Syria and Yemen. In 2016, Shia cleric Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr was killed in Saudi Arabia. This, along with attacks on Saudi foreign missions in Iran, led to the sudden cutting of diplomatic links. After years of hostility, Saudi Arabia and Iran agreed to resume diplomatic relations in March 2023 after China mediated. This was a possible step towards de-escalation. Both countries have reopened embassies and diplomatic engagement has resumed, focusing on areas like security in the Red Sea and regional stability. While there is cautious optimism, problems still exist, especially in Yemen, where both countries have supported opposing sides in the ongoing civil war. This complicated relationship is caused by religious differences. The Middle East's politics are still being shaped by competing for power and different political ideas. Let's take a moment to reflect on this. Could you help us? Thank you, Rear Admiral Sharam. If you like our content, please click the like button to help us reach more people. Also, please leave your thoughts and feedback in the comments. Irani talked about what the Iranian Navy is doing in the Red Sea and said that Saudi Arabia wants to hold a joint drill there. Both countries have also asked each other to visit their ports. Irani also said that these plans include a joint exercise that may include other countries. He said that coordination work is already being done, and teams from both sides will meet to talk about the specifics of how to carry out the exercise. It's possible that this partnership between Iran and Saudi Arabia will lead to more talks and lower tensions in the region, which would be good for both countries and the whole world. If the proposed joint naval exercise in the Red Sea goes through, military officials from both countries will closely watch the results and think about how it will affect the political situation in West Asia. This would be the third time that Iran and Saudi Arabia have worked together militarily. In 2018, Iran and Saudi Arabia, along with Oman and Pakistan, took part in a joint naval exercise in the Indian Ocean called the Coalition of Friendship. Most recently, Iran finished a joint naval drill in its southern waters with Saudi Arabia among the participants. The planned joint naval drills between Iran and Saudi Arabia are very important from a strategic point of view. This is especially true since tensions between Iran and Israel are rising due to recent missile and drone attacks by Iran against Israel. More and more people are expecting Israel to launch a military strike against Iranian targets. Things have gotten worse in this case. Concerns in the region and the planned drills are important for many reasons. First, relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran have recently been normalized after years of rivalry that was mostly caused by China. By holding joint military exercises, the two countries are sending a message of increased cooperation and de-escalation efforts in the Middle East as a whole. This cooperation could help avoid a full-scale regional conflict, even though tensions are still high between Iran and Israel. Arabian Gulf, in order to keep its oil products from being affected by instability, has been careful to keep a balanced stance, not fully supporting either Israel or Iran but pushing for peace in Iran. These drills are also a way to show power and scare off possible Israeli strikes. The country has been showing off its military to make it clear to other countries in the region, including Israel, that any hostile moves would be met with a strong reaction. Iran's recent missile testing and drone strikes show that it can launch long-range attacks. This could be a message to Israel and other nearby countries not to make any moves that could make things worse. In a time of high tensions, this naval cooperation with Saudi Arabia may also show that Iran wants to strengthen its ties with other Arab countries to avoid being alone in the face of possible Israeli attack. What happens next will rest a lot on what Israel does and how other countries in the region, like the Gulf Cooperation Council, react. Asymmetric warfare is a big part of Iran's naval strategy. The Iranian Navy is split into two main groups because it doesn't have as much advanced technology as regional powers in the West. The regular Navy, also known as IRIN, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, also known as the IRGCN. The IRGCN is very important, especially in the Strait of Hormuz, where Iran uses fast attack craft, mine warfare, and anti-ship weapons to balance out its enemies. Iran has developed a strong arsenal of weapons, including ballistic and cruise missiles that can hit ships at sea. Its submarine fleet, especially the Fat-class submarines that were built in Iran, gives it a strong deterrent and the ability to operate in secret. Iran can also compete with bigger naval forces in small areas thanks to its work on robotic systems and swarming tactics, especially with small fast boats and drones. Some examples are the Persian Gulf. Even though it is subject to sanctions and its ships are getting old, Iran's navy has spread its operations to include the Gulf of Oman, the Indian Ocean, and even the Red Sea. This shows that Iran wants to show its power beyond its near surroundings. Iran is still focusing on developing its own shipbuilding and missile technologies to improve both its attacking and defense naval power. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, has worked hard to build a modern, high-tech navy with a lot of help from Western countries, especially the US and Europe. The Royal Saudi Naval Forces, RSNF, run two ships, one in the Gulf and one in the Red Sea. As part of its attempts to become more modern, Saudi Arabia has bought high-tech platforms like the Multi-Mission Surface Combatant, MMSC, and Avante 2200 corvettes that are equipped with advanced surface-to-air and anti-ship weapon systems. The Saudi Arabian Navy is well equipped to deal with both normal dangers and unusual challenges. It is especially good at protecting maritime lines in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden from pirates and attacks by the Houthi rebels, who are backed by Iran. In addition, the RSNF has a strong air defense system built into its fleet, which is better than Iran's use of unusual methods. As part of its Vision 2030 plan to become more self-sufficient and strengthen its defense industry, Saudi Arabia is also putting a lot of money into improving indigenous production. The fact that Iran and Saudi Arabia are working together within the BRICS framework is a big change from the way they've usually fought with each other. Both countries joined the BRICS bloc in 2024, along with the UAE. Egypt and Ethiopia. This growth is meant to increase their regional power and is in line with the BRICS's main goals of supporting economic growth and multilateralism within the group. Iran and Saudi Arabia, two of the world's biggest oil producers, are working together to improve global energy cooperation. These two countries, along with other BRIC members like China and Russia, are looking for ways to challenge the dominance of the US dollar by trading in local currencies, especially in the energy sector. This is because they all want to become less dependent on Western-dominated financial systems, which is especially important for Iran as it tries to get around international sanctions. The BRICS economic cooperation gives both countries chances to broaden their businesses. For Saudi Arabia, this fits with its Vision 2030 plan to move beyond its reliance on oil. Iran wants to draw investments and become more involved in global trade, even though Western sanctions have kept it out of the market. BRICS's economic outreach also helps keep the region stable. For example, Iran and Saudi Arabia see economic dependency as a way to lower political conflicts, especially after what they said earlier in 2023. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching this video and joining us today. If our content spoke to you or inspired you, please show your support by liking it and following to stay in touch with our community.